Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me for our holiday kitten project. I want to start off with a couple of announcements. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your encouragement and support this year for the online classes. This has been a new thing for everybody. It's a very unusual time, and we're looking forward to 2021. This is the last class I'll be doing this year. We're going to take a break for a while. And if you're on the mailing list or Facebook, you can stay tuned for upcoming things we might be doing. Please, if you have not found my YouTube channel, there is a playlist on my YouTube channel that has a lot of helpful tips and techniques, and there's lots of videos there, so take a look at that. Now, something else we've discovered in our path through YouTube and Wi-Fi and different things during this time is that if your screen goes black and it says error loading, click out and click back in and it should work okay. What we found is there are so many people who have moved online that the servers are just overloaded. So what I will do, I will be downloading the video from Facebook and uploading it and sending you a link to all the videos from this week so that you can watch them via the links or via the private Facebook group, whatever works best for you. So on your screen, you can see our little project. One other thing, if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments and I will answer them, or you can send me an email. You can also, as we go through the week, you can send me a photograph of your picture, or you can post it in the group. You can talk to one another in the group. The group is a good place to share ideas. And I think that's all I have on my piece of paper to tell you. Now, as far as the project goes, I am right-handed, so I generally work from left to right, and with pastel from the top corner down to the right-hand bottom corner to keep my hand out of the pastel. But because this project has red, and red migrates, and what that means is it can get all over everything, and we want to keep it right here on the Christmas ornament. So because of that, we're going to start with a kitten and we're going to work in the opposite way. So Wednesday, you might want to have a piece of paper to cover your cat with, okay? So here's my drawing. This is a sand pastel mat. If you don't have your pastel mat, if you're just going to watch and then try it later, you could use any light colored pastel mat. This one happens to be sand. Let me see if I can get the light a little better. You wouldn't want to use a dark paper. I like the sand because it's really neutral and it's nice and warm. I also posted the original photo in the group, which is the cat looks like this. So what I did was I squared it up, actually, to get it to be in the same position as the cat in our picture. I had the idea, and then I had to go and find reference photos that I could use to make my cat look like I had pictured it in my mind. So now we're going to get started, and we're going to use pastel pencils and a few hard pastels, and then one soft pastel to make this cute little project. And if you have not purchased supplies or you don't have the right colors, just use what you have. Get as close as you can to the right color and make that work. I'm going to work from kind of medium dark to light. So I'm going to start with a Carbothello 640, which is one of my favorite colored pencils. It's Caput Mortem Violet. It's a wonderful brown color. Now I transferred my design. Now what we're going to do, my points are very sharp. So I'm going to just stroke in the hairs. I'm going to mark all the places where the dark hairs are. Just using short little strokes, and I'm going to tell you why I do it this way as we go along. And I keep my reference close by. So we're putting in the stripes. Now I've got a hand crank sharpener attached to my table so that if my pencils get dull, I can sharpen them because I want them fairly sharp. The idea is to create a nice fluffy little kitten. Sharpen up my pencil a little. I want to get this little area under his eye. you'll be able to watch these replays as often as you want. So I'm kind of, I'm just going to go around the eyes. We're going to come back and do more there. So I'm holding my pencil an angle to my paper. I don't hold it straight up and down vertically. I hold it at an angle. And I like to take my time. And get it just the way I want it. Hi, Patricia. I'm glad you joined us. I want to get this edge, and then I want to outline the ear. I have to tell you, I love pastel, and I love pastel pencils. I'm just going to put a light Hi, Belva. I'm glad you could join us. These are very light layers at this point. We're just really putting in kind of some guidelines. Now you can go as far down with cat fur as you want to, but I want to leave room for us to personalize it. So I'm not going to put, I'm not going to go down any further than the original design on the fur. Now, everywhere that the fur is white, we're going to base coat that with gray. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use 708 gray in the Carbothello. to put in these darks. Here again, I'm using not a super hard stroke, just a light touch. And I'm using it with my pencil at an angle. I really wanted a long hair cat for this project. I just think they're so pretty. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to another color, and that's going to be 670 burnt sienna. And this is redder. And we're going to put this, we're going to start to fill in the color of our cat. There's a little red right on that edge. So I'm going to go down the nose. I'm going to leave a little white edge, or an edge that will be white. Around the nose. Just a little bit of color in here. Leave the white rim around the eye. I'm going to go up in between the dark stripes. I'm all the time looking at my reference photo. And one color builds upon the other. A little bit down here. not a lot. I want to go over the brown that we put in the previous step in the ear, because the ear is quite dark, so we're building up the darks with the pencils. And there's a little bit of brown under the chin, but we'll okay, let's define the gray area a little more. So I have a Payne's Gray, I have a 708 and a 706. I'm going to use the 708. And the 706. So we're kind of making tufts of hair. And I can put the darkest area in with the Payne's Gray, because Payne's Gray is like a purple gray. It's a wonderful color, particularly, I think it is in all media, but particularly in pastel pencil. It has it's a deep purpley gray. I'm not adding a lot. This is the 706. We'll use this more at the end after we put in our white hairs for fine tuning. I see a little brown area. So I'm going to switch back to my 640 for a minute. So we're doing our darks and our middle values, and the last thing we'll put in is our light. So what I'm doing is kind of shaping the outside edges of the parts of the cat I'm going to include in my painting. Hi Eileen. No, we're just getting started with putting in our darks, medium, dark values on our kitten. And this is the Payne's Gray. Now, what I'm trying to do is teach you a technique that you can use for creating your paintings and doing something different. If you want to paint a dog or a different kind of cat or animal, you'll be able to do that the same way. Okay, and this was the 640 Caput Mortem. Okay, so now we've used those. The next color we're going to use, we're going to go a little darker with a 635 Beaster. It's a super dark kind of gray brown. I'm going to sharpen mine on my sandpaper a little bit. I'm going to go back over the very darkest hairs. I'm going to push a little darker, a little harder rather, to make them a little darker than they were the first time. Making short hairs, they're growing in the direction that the hair grows on the cat. We're actually, each time we add a color, we're covering less area than we were before. This color is kind of a gray brown. Put it right here in the corner of the eye. And I'm going to draw in the little whisker holes. I want to get some of these areas a little darker. And by putting one color on top of the other, we're building layers of color, which to me is more colorful than just using a single color. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit just in the bottom section of the ear. So we're going to build that up darker. This is the 670 that we used before. just want to define that mouth a little more. We're going to add more color to that. But the next thing we're going to do is add the eyes, because I like to put the eyes in early when I paint. Now I'm going to use a black around the eyes. You can use, your color sheet says Pit 199. If you don't have Pit 199, you can use Carbothello the 750. And we're going to outline the eyes. Each pastel set has different colors in it. I think pastels and maybe colored pencils are the only ones that do it that way. So we're going to go around the eyes with the black. We're going to put in a pupil. Now in the white of the eye that's in that corner, I'm going to put in a little bit of gray 70, I'm using 706. There. It's a little darker color over that. I am working on pastel matte, sand-colored pastel matte, Patricia. It's not sandpaper, but it's pastel matte, which is smoother. You could use sandpaper in 800, maybe 600 grade, because it's pretty fine. If you use any stronger than that, it'll just chew your pencil up. So the next color, the base color of the eye for the irises is going to be 450. Let me correct the shape. Okay. So I'm just going to color this in, flat color it. Then, down at the bottom, I'm going to take a little bit of ivory and I'm going to stroke it in just the bottom third, very lightly, just to lighten the color a little bit. Then to darken the color, I'm going to use Carbothello 400, which is, I believe, Parisian blue. And we're going to darken the upper third using a pretty light touch for that. And you can see that it's beginning to take on some dimension with that. Yes, Eileen, these are Carbothellos. Now we want it to go a little darker. So we're going to take our, got too many pencils in my hand, 199 Pit and I'm going to go under the lid and darken it ever so slightly at the top. And on this eye, I'm going to darken that outer rim. Maybe a little more dark to the pupils. That got a little dark right there, so I can go back with my blue and kind of blend it in. Now, I wanted these to have kind of a greenish tint to them. So I have some, I have a 560 leaf green, and I'm going to put it, well, before I do that, let's mark the highlights with the white charcoal pencil. So I'm going to put a highlight right up in this corner, and I'm going to put one over in the same spot on the other eye. Now the light travels through the eye, this is where it hits, and it comes out over on this side, and that's true of both eyes. So I'm going to take the leaf green and I'm going to concentrate it, I'm going to stroke it towards the pupil, where the light bounces back out. Press a little harder and put a little white on top of that to brighten it up. Now I see some other white areas, so I'm going to put white on the rim of the eyelid. This cat has a reflection on this side of his eyeball, so I'm going to put in a couple of little white places there. I'm going to reshape this because it's not round. There's also a hint of brown on the outside edge, so I'm going to take, this is the 640 we used before, and just put this right next to the black. And maybe a little highlight on that rim, even though it doesn't show in your reference picture, it would still be there. And I think those look pretty lively. So that's all I'm going to do with the eyes right now. We may need to punch them up later. Okay, now I'm going to add more red around the cat's face, and I'm going to do that. We're going to add another brown which is 645, which is Kaput Mortem Red. Now this is redder than the previous colors we've been using. I'm going to concentrate the use of this down on the nose. Now at this point we have 3 or 4 layers of color. And what happens is it starts to blend itself together, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm just going to kind of stroke over the whisker holes. Now this color is redder and darker than the burnt sienna, the 670 that we used, and it's lighter than the Beaster, the 635. It's also redder. Let's put it under the eye. We're going to avoid the white area. I'm just going to concentrate it here. A little bit in between these little tufts of hair. Now this is when it really starts to begin to come together. Go behind the ear. I'm going to take the 706 gray, find the right one. And there are gray hairs in between the stripes, so I'm going to add, I'm not drawing individual hairs, I'm just adding gray hair in this area. I think I'm going to add a little bit darker gray. The other advantage of building it up gradually is that you're less likely to make a mistake and end up with something that you don't like. It gets a little gray on these edges, so I'm going to add a little bit there. Let's add some color in here. Now, let's address this ear. For the ear, we're going to use a 770 Payne's Gray. I'm going to sharpen mine up a little bit. I'm going to I'm also going to add some brown to this area. But this is the darkest area of the ear, the lower 1/3. So I'm going to go over it with some Payne's Gray. About to there. Then I'm going to use this Pit 131, which is a medium flesh color, and I'm going to add the pink area of the ear with that. This is just such a pretty color. There isn't a color like this in Carbothello. This is the 640, right there where it meets the flesh color isn't quite brown enough, so I'm going to add a little bit of that. And I'm going to add a little black, very bottom. But I'm not going to make this solid, so I can pull hairs up into here. And then up in this tip area, I'm going to take the Carbothello 681, and we're going to add a highlight area. Now when I go over this with the 681, it gets solid. The color becomes solid and not scratchy. And it makes a nice highlighted area. If I want to add a little more pink, I can go back over it with the flesh. And make the cat's ear pinker if you don't want it that pink. You could go over it with some brown. I like the way that looks, but I'm going to add a little more of the 681 Carbothello right in that area. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to go a little darker with our cat. This time we're going to add some red violet. And sometimes I have trouble finding my own colors in a box. There we go. This is 194 red violet. There's not another color like this either, and another brand. I like this color a lot. So we're going to go darker. This is not dark enough in here. Let me fix that. I don't have quite enough dark brown here. Looking at my reference photos, so I'm just going to add some color there. And so I'm going to go darker still with this red violet. Just in the shadow areas. I also like to take every opportunity to use red, well, to use color, red, in this case it's red, in my work. I'm going to put some right in that ear. Let's fix this nose while we're here too. So we want to do I want to color this in with the 131. Give him a little pink nose. And makes a little bit of shadow with the red violet. And I'm going to take a little bit of black. And let's put a highlight on his nose with the 681. He's so cute. Take the red violet. There's little dark areas in here. I'm just going to add those. It's darker on one side of the nose. So I'm going to go back with the, let's see if the 640 is dark enough. Maybe not. use our dark brown, 635. So now we've built up a substantial layer of color. A few little dark brown spots in here. Now, I'm going to add some black hairs. Now, if I had taken, we are going to use a blending stump, but we're not going to use it on the fur. If we do that, it'll get real slick, and you will not be able to put your highlight colors on top of it. Now, I noticed that I'm not brown enough back there and behind the ear. Let's take the red violet. And this is the Easter. I'm going to darken this. I'm stroking these hairs as I see them. Now's the time to tweak things. I'm going to use, I want this to be a little redder. This is the 645. And let's just add a little color to this so it's not so stark white, all right? Okay. Now, over back here, add some dark hairs. This is the 635. Using my reference photo. And these the fur that's on this side needs to be darker than the fur that's in the light, right? So we're going to color it. We're just going to add a coat of the 706 gray. Just on this side. Now, I'm going to get my black pencil, and I've got to, let me sharpen one up. It's always a good idea to have two pencils. You never will know when you might need two of them. Now I'm going to, oh, one more thing. It's better to do things when you think about it. I want to add, these are white areas, so I want to add a little bit of gray right around the nose. A little bit in the mouth. Give a little shape to it. This is the 640. little brown here. Pretty good. Alrighty. So I have my blacks. I'm going to go very dark. It's my 199 or 750. I'm pushing, at this point I'm pushing fairly hard. Little whisker holes on this side too. Just gonna make those a little darker. A nice black stripe here. It's a darker brown. I can see that, so I'm going to go ahead and fix it while I'm thinking about it. These, the hair behind the ears, darker. The one nice thing about using pastel matte is it does come in colors, and so you don't have to add a background. Painting does not have okay. Let's get the edge of this ear.
Sounds breaking up.
I think I can.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Let me know if you can. I'll talk a little louder. Sometimes my voice tends to trail off when I'm thinking. I'm also going to add some gray just a little bit. Area that's going to be white, and in this area, and this is 706. Okay, thank you, Eileen. Now, this is pretty much a setup for the final stages. So we're going to move over to the paw. Well, I was going to move over to you, paw. You know what I think we'll do? Let's start adding some highlight hairs. That way you can do them later if you want, and then we can come back and talk about it and see how you did. Besides, that's the fun part, right? So the cat is ready to add the highlights. There are some darker places that we can come back in when we're done with it. Now for the highlights, we're going to use our white charcoal pencil. I actually have two, and we're going to use the 105 ivory pencil. The reason being is we're not going to use the same color on both sides of the cat. Okay? We're going to, this side is in the light, so it's going to have a stronger value to it than this side, which is in shadow. So we're going to use white charcoal pencil. And the reason I use white charcoal pencil, it's to me it's stronger than white pastel pencil because it's made with calcium carbonate, which I didn't know until I looked it up. That's pretty cool. We're also going to use a couple of places with the 681 pink, but these will be our main two, and they need to be sharp. Excuse me. So starting, I need a piece of paper. Hang on a second. To rest my hand on. Whoops. Now, you can do this a couple of ways. You can pull them, or you can push them, or you can do both. And I tend to do both. So I'm looking at my drawing, my reference picture. And I'm pulling and pushing the hair according to what I see. This is the fun part, right? So I'm looking at my reference. I just love this part. Now we don't want to come any further than just this side. Now, around the kitty's eyes, my pencil's gotten a little dull, and it also gets a little dirty from picking up. So I'm going to go around the cat's eye. I'm pushing fairly hard. Right in this little area. There's a little white place along its nose. Now I'm going to switch to my other pencil that's sharper. And you can take these hairs and go all kinds of directions with them. That little area there. Let's do this little muzzle. So I want to use short strokes. And then I'm going to go back out. And I'm going to show you how we make the whiskers. I'm letting my pencil get sort of dull in this area, and I'll show you why. So I'm just going to go to this section right here. Now, we're going to do this area. So I'm going to take my 708 pencil, gray pencil, and put a little dark in here. Now for the whiskers, let me sharpen up my pencil. Now if I draw out a whisker like this, and then I take my gray pencil and go underneath it just slightly, you can see the whisker better. And that's how we make them show up. Now, up the center of the cat's face, we'll take the white and make little short hairs. And there's a couple right in here. Sharpen up my pencil again. I'm going to need to do a little better than that. So hang on with me a minute while I've got this really cool little table sharpener. It's called a doll DAHL 133. I got it on Amazon for not much money, and it really works well. I didn't think it would, but it does, and it gets my pencils very sharp. And so there are little wispy hairs off the top of his head, so I'm going to get those. I'm holding it at an angle. I want this a little wider. Okay, and I can draw the white in on the lower lip. And you can go back and add hair as much as you like on this side. Now we're going to switch sides. Now on the top of the ear, I'm still going to use the white. But we're going to do a couple different things. So I'm using the white on the ear. I want it to be really sharp. I'm going to pull a few hairs, doing it at an angle into the ear, okay? Now, the hair that comes right here, I'm going to use the pink. To pull a few, this is 681. And there are some hair, a few actually I think they're whiskers up here. I'm going to use 681 for that. And there's a couple here. Now around the eye, I'm going to use the white. Couple more whiskers. Now I'm going to change to the ivory. It makes a slight color difference, but yet I think it's very effective, because this side of the cat is in shade. This is 105. I'm laying it on its side. I'm twisting it as I go to produce the hair. It looks kind of twisty on this side. Up under the eye, then down the side again. I'm laying it almost parallel to the paper and pulling out these beautiful little hair. because we have just enough pastel on the paper to cover the tooth without filling it, we can pull out little hair that don't look grainy to me. They are beautiful and they fit beautifully in with the fur. My biggest problem with pastel matte was that it was grainy, and I did not like that. Now I see I need some more brown here, so I'm gonna pick me a brown. I really like the 640. Let's see if it's dark enough. Not quite. I'm gonna put black over it. Now behind the ear, the hair is white. It's backlit and it's white. This little edge is, I'm going to use pink for it. So that's 681. And I'm going to go over that with the flesh color, the 131. Yes, the 131. I see something here I want to address. This is a 681. Want to fix that ear just a little bit. Now, let's see. I want to add a little brown right in between these this is just, to me, it's just so much fun. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Now, I'm using the white where I'm going in between these black hairs. This is where the backlight's the strongest. And you can add as much hair as you want. I want to get it a little blacker. Does anyone have any questions? Also want to get, as we're finishing up today, a little bit redder in here. Okay, let's finish this side of the cat's face. So I'm going to take the ivory 105 and I'm going to go make little hairs in between the little whisker holes. Now he's got a couple of dark brown whiskers. Let's see if we can get those in. I'm going to sharpen my pencil really sharp. That didn't get as sharp as I wanted it. You want your pencils really sharp when you add whiskers particularly. So I'm just going to put in a couple. And we'll come back and do more when we get towards the end. And I do want that a little browner. So I'm going to find the sharpest brown pencil I have. Which is a 645. I like this red. I want it a little bit redder. And just a little white on top of that as it turns into the more of the shadow side. Now before our next class, I will sharpen up my pencils. I hope you will all work on your cats between now and next time. And let me know if you have any questions or I can do anything to help you. I want to sharpen up this little nose. It looks like I'm losing it. Okay? And between one last chance, any questions? I'll wait just a minute before we sign off. And I want to tell you again that I will be taking the recording, saving it, uploading it, and sending you a link. I will probably send them all at once, just in case the replay doesn't work, which happened. Thank you, Eileen. I look forward to seeing what you do because you have lots of wonderful models at your house. So if you have questions, email me or leave them in the comments section below. And I will see you on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we will do the paw, and I'll tell you the story of how I got the paw to work from. And we'll do the tree, and hopefully we can get started on the ornament too, and then we can save Friday for questions, and I'll show you how to personalize this, that you can make a Christmas card out of it. So I'll be signing off, and I will see you on Wednesday. Thank you so much for coming.